A best-selling memoir author just got exposed for the biggest literary fraud of the decade. It involves embezzlement, fake illness claims, and a completely fabricated hiking story that fooled millions of readers. The Australian reports that Perth couple Joe and David Parsons are caught up in what's being called the biggest literary scandal of the decade, involving the Salt Path memoir. Raynor Winn is accused of embezzling £64,000 from her former real estate employer while simultaneously fabricating her husband's illness and their entire 1,000-kilometer coastal walk story. The scandal has forced her to withdraw from major literary festivals as healthcare charities drop her and investigators examine their so-called bankruptcy. This represents the complete collapse of memoir credibility, where best-selling personal narratives that launched to rapturous acclaim are now being forensically examined for fraud. The timing shows how memoir fact-checking has become the most important issue in contemporary publishing. As readers demand truth from personal narratives that claim to be authentic, lived experiences.
Meta just tried to silence a whistleblower's explosive book about Facebook, and it completely backfired by making her memoir a #3 Amazon bestseller overnight. Mashable reports that Meta successfully obtained a legal ruling blocking Sarah Wynne Williams from promoting her memoir, Careless People. But the censorship attempt has only drawn massive attention to her insider account of Facebook's authoritarian regime, cozying and disinformation campaigns. The book reveals how Meta was run by status-hungry and self-absorbed leaders. According to the New York Times, while Wynne Williams worked there from 2011 to 2017. Meta accused her of violating her employee non-disparagement agreement and got an arbitrator to temporarily ban her from promoting or personally distributing the book. But the Streisand effect has kicked in spectacularly, with almost 13,000 people now wanting to read it on Goodreads, specifically because Meta tried to silence her. This proves that corporate censorship creates more attention and credibility for banned books than any marketing campaign ever could.
A best-selling romance author just completely nuked her entire Instagram account because Hunger Games fans are digitally abusing her over calling PETA useless. And it shows how toxic fandom culture has become. Oh No They Didn't reports that Allie Hazelwood deactivated her Instagram after a clip from the LA Times Festival went viral, showing her jokingly calling PETA useless on a book panel in late April. International fans are taking her hyperbolic joke about preferring Katniss with Gale as a personal attack and harassing her across social media platforms. The absurdity is that a best-selling author is being digitally abused over a joke comment about a fictional character from 2008. This represents the complete breakdown of the boundary between fictional character preferences and real-world harassment, where shipping discourse has become so toxic that authors can express opinions about fictional relationships without facing coordinated abuse campaigns. The incident proves that fandom culture has evolved into a form of digital vigilantism where fans police author opinions about characters they didn't even create.
Book talk is literally making people quit their jobs and travel the world based on fictional stories. And it's creating the most expensive reading trend in history. Multiple news outlets report that readers are turning viral book talk stories into real-world trips, where books are no longer just read, but live through expensive international travel experiences. This represents a complete cultural shift where social media book recommendations are driving actual tourism decisions and lifestyle changes, rather than just reading preferences. The trend shows how book talk has evolved beyond book discovery into lifestyle influence, where fictional settings become must-visit destinations for content creation. Publishers are now considering travel partnerships and location-based marketing because readers want to experience the physical places described in their favorite novels. This phenomenon proves that book talk has transcended traditional book marketing to become a travel and lifestyle influence platform.
The economic impact shows how social media book culture is creating new industries around literary tourism and experiential reading that goes far beyond traditional book sales and library borrowing.
Trump just filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally over an Epstein birthday story. And it's the biggest media lawsuit in history. Economic Times reports that Trump called Murdoch from Air Force One demanding the Wall Street Journal kill a story about a racy birthday note allegedly sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. The presidential pressure on media to suppress content represents an unprecedented attack on press freedom, where political figures use legal warfare to silence journalism. Trump has requested an expedited deposition of Rupert Murdoch, seeking answers about the decision-making process behind publishing stories that expose political connections to controversial figures. This case represents the intersection of political power and media control, where former presidents use massive lawsuits to intimidate publishers and journalists. The $10 billion amount shows how legal threats are being weaponized to create financial pressure on media companies that publish unfavorable coverage. This lawsuit could set a dangerous precedent for political figures using the court system to silence investigative journalism about their past associations and activities.
White authors are getting called out for slapping Black names on white characters and monetizing Black culture without doing any research. And it's exposing how publishing profits from cultural theft. Ebony reports that white writers are appropriating and monetizing Black culture just to increase book sales, while failing to do their due diligence about the communities they're exploiting for profit. This represents the systematic problem of cultural appropriation in publishing, where authors use diverse character names and cultural elements as marketing tools rather than authentic representation. The timing shows how readers are becoming more sophisticated about identifying performative diversity versus genuine cultural understanding in literature. Publishers are facing increased scrutiny about their role in promoting books that appropriate rather than authentically represent marginalized communities. This controversy proves that the publishing industry has a diversity problem that goes beyond just hiring diverse authors, to include examining how cultural elements are used for commercial gain. The backlash shows how social media has empowered readers to call out cultural appropriation and demand accountability from both authors and publishers who profit from exploiting cultures they don't understand or respect.
Nigeria's entire book industry is collapsing right now, with booksellers raising alarms about overwhelming challenges that could destroy African literature forever. Premium Times reports that Nigerian booksellers have identified weak distribution networks, poor marketing structures, and rising production costs as major setbacks undermining the country's book industry. This represents a catastrophic threat to one of Africa's most important literary markets, where local authors and publishers are struggling to survive economic pressures. The panelists' warnings show how international publishing dominance is crushing local book industries in developing countries where readers can't access affordable, locally produced literature. This crisis proves that the global publishing industry's concentration in wealthy countries is creating literary deserts in regions with rich storytelling traditions. The timing shows how economic pressures are forcing African publishers out of business while international publishers ignore local markets. This collapse could result in the permanent loss of African literary voices and storytelling traditions if the international publishing community doesn't intervene to support local book industries and distribution networks.
A school just banned a children's book about racism. And it's proving that book banning has reached peak absurdity, where even anti-racism education is considered controversial. Valley News Live reports that Moorhead Public Schools pulled a children's book from Horizon Middle School West Library following controversy over its content on racism. This represents the complete breakdown of educational logic, where books designed to teach children about racism are being removed because discussing racism has become politically controversial. The school's decision shows how book banning has evolved from targeting explicit content to removing any material that acknowledges racial inequality or historical injustice. This case proves that educational institutions are prioritizing political comfort over student learning about important social issues. The timing shows how anti-racism education has become a target for censorship campaigns that want to prevent children from learning about racial history and inequality. This book removal represents the dangerous trend of sanitizing education to avoid uncomfortable conversations about racism while claiming to protect children from age-appropriate educational content about social justice and equality.
Richard Osman's Fifth Thursday Murder Club book is about to drop, and it's going to break every publishing record because this series has become the most addictive mystery franchise in the world. Bookish Goblin reports that The Impossible Fortune leads the September 30th book releases as the fifth installment in Osman's wildly popular Thursday Murder Club series. This represents the evolution of cozy mystery into a cultural phenomenon where elderly amateur detectives have captured readers across all age groups and demographics. The series' success shows how comfort reading has become the dominant trend in publishing, where readers want escapist mysteries rather than dark psychological thrillers. Osman's background as a television presenter has given him unique insight into creating characters and plots that feel like comfort television in book form. The Thursday Murder Club phenomenon proves that readers are craving optimistic mysteries with likable characters who solve crimes through friendship and community rather than violence and trauma. This fifth book represents the peak of the cozy mystery renaissance, where wholesome detective stories are outselling grimdark crime fiction and proving that readers want hope and humor in their mystery entertainment.